Good morning and welcome to Ananda and to everyone that is tuning in online. This reading is from Whispers from Eternity by Paranhansa Yogananda, entitled, Wake Me, that I may know that the terrors of mundane delusions are only dreams. Wrapped in the blanket of hope, I slept long. I dreamed I was sitting on a throne, my face wreathed in smiles. My smiles withered, and the petals of my merriment dropped, one by one. Suddenly, I beheld myself in rags. Seated on the hard stones of poverty, I wept, and my teardrops fell on the unheeding, unrelenting stones of my present circumstance. The world passed me by in mocking silence. I cried out for thy help, and thou didst wake me at last through the force of my desperation. I laughed to find myself at last, neither rich nor poor, but safe forever in thy arms. Oh, waken all anxious souls from their dreams of smiling opulence and crying poverty. O maker of dream worlds, deliver me forever from the nightmares of disease and death. Wake me to immortality. Wake me to unshaken calmness, that I may know the fierce terrors of mundane delusion to be only dreams. And from the Path by Swami Kriyananda, this is drawn from the chapter Will versus Meditation. Master responded instantly to sincere love. One day, missing him intensely, I went down to see him in Haridas, where he was staying at the time. Shortly after my arrival, he passed a group of us on his way back from a drive. Seeing me, he invited me to ride up with him to the hermitage. I have missed you, he told me lovingly. How rare is it, I thought, for one's unexpressed feelings to be intuited so sensitively. Master's help was with us not only in our own inner spiritual struggles, but in our work as well. One day, Norman and I were replastering the wall of a garage by the main entrance to the Mount Washington grounds. The plaster was old and was setting up fast. Though we kept on adding water, we had all we could do to complete each batch before it hardened completely. Halfway through the job, Master, on his way out for a drive, saw us and stopped the car. Calling us over to him, he chatted with us for about half an hour. We were delighted, of course, yet at the back of our minds there lurked a slight apprehension. What about that plaster? I had just mixed a fresh batch and poured it onto the board, and there it was, getting harder by the second. By the time Master left us, both Norman and I were certain it would take a sledgehammer to break up the plaster. To our amazement, however, we found it as soft and pliable as it had been when I poured it. For the rest of that day, the plaster gave us no trouble at all. Nightly, I chanted Master's translation of a song by the great Bengali saint, Ram Prasad. When will that day come to me, when saying, Mother, Mother, my eyes will flow with tears? Gradually, I found myself becoming transformed inwardly. I began to feel I had some cause for self-congratulation when one day word came to me that Master had been talking with a group of the monks in Haridas. During the course of the conversation, he had remarked lovingly, Look how I have changed Walter. Many years ago, when our daughter was just maybe 5 years old or something, we had a very, very unique experience, which I really hold precious to my heart to this day. We were invited to a wedding. Well, I'm Jewish and Rome is Catholic, and so what fun was it when the wedding was between a Catholic and a Jew. And so there was the rabbi and the priest both performing the wedding. I thought, how could that ever be possible? It was, to me, a bit of a miracle. And so the wedding went off quite lovely, And there too, to add to the power of the experience, were 4 of the Jewish relatives that were all survivors of Auschwitz. And so, of course, they had gone through incredible experiences in their life. And yet, there was no trace of that on their face. And one, from time to time comes across these extraordinary people that have had these soul-searing experiences, and yet somehow, through right attitude, through acceptance, and other very sterling qualities, are able to come through. And so they were there too. Well, as the wedding party then went into time for a little bit of food and all of that, the celebration, I was quite amazed, because the 2 people getting married were bound to wheelchairs. Young people, the Catholic and the Jew, they were marrying each other. And they had had both unfortunate accidents. I believe one was a skiing accident, the other was an automobile accident. And yet again, as is true of the Auschwitz survivors, there wasn't any trace of their suffering. They had simply gone on with their lives. And so then it was time for a dance between the married couple. And the wedding had gone so well, and now the refreshments and all. I must admit, I was a little nervous for them. I thought, my God, this is a really, really bold move. I had never even dreamed of such a thing, that they would be out on the floor with everyone around. And there were, hundreds of people perhaps. And they were at the center of attention. So I thought, well, the look on their face to me was enough. I thought, well, if anyone can pull this one off, they can. And sure enough, just in a few graceful moves, they weren't on the floor for, just for a minute or two, swirling around in their wheelchairs and holding hands. It was so entrancing. I'll never forget it. And I thought, well done. Well done. How many people would have been able to pull that off? And they did. And so that experience is again, as I said, very, very much with me, because we all have our trials and tribulations that we go through. And yet from time to time, it's very important to, whether reading in a book of someone who has done some amazing thing in transforming their lives, maybe in our own lives, friends, relatives, people that have gone through experiences that had the power, really, to crush one, and yet they come out smelling like a rose. There was a very interesting story, getting back to Auschwitz, where when the camp was liberated, I'm not sure which one of these death camps, I can't recall at this moment, but one of them, they were all equally horrible. As the troops came in, perhaps they were the U.S. troops, they saw, of course, this incredible spectacle of these, walking skeletons and all of that. But there was one man that was there, that was absolutely radiant and completely fit and healthy. And they thought that somehow, visiting relatives and so on, they could not believe he had spent as much time as the rest of them. How is that possible? Well, he simply, because he was a man of God, he simply said, well, this is my situation. What can I do to help? I'm hungry, but let me give my a little allotment of my lunch or dinner to this one. And let me see if I can comfort this one who's having some suffering physically, and on and on. That is how he spent his years there. And he came out, and they just didn't see that there was any possibility that this man, until they quizzed him, that this man could have had that experience. And perhaps, being skeptical, they probably had to ask a few others, was he really here in the camp? Indeed he was. And so you have the power We all have the power of being able to accept our situation. But understand, and it's very important to understand, as Swami was given that great lesson. Master used to call him Walter. His last name was Walters. Why Yogananda called him Walter is a mystery, but there it is. Look how I have changed Walter. And so, yes, as we progress spiritually, that's why we've come down upon this earth plane. And for no other reason, truly, when you think of, again, in the Gita, when duty comes, when higher duty comes, and lesser duties are to be put to the side. It's not that we neglect our world, but we have to keep in mind that we are here to find God. That is why we've come down. And we have to remember that, because this world with this hypnotic Maya tells us in so many different ways, finding God is important. Now let's see, what shall I get for groceries tonight, and so on. And juggling this is quite a task, and that's why we are so fortunate to have an inner life and to be yogis. Because if anyone can juggle, if anyone can master the art of juggling, and it is not easy, we will know, then it's the yogis and yoginis that somehow, some way can keep God in their mind and at the same time perform their duties. It's why Lahiri Mahashaya is, and again, celebrating his birthday in Mahasamadhi last month, is always so profound as it is celebrating the lives of the saints. Because he didn't want to go back after he met Babaji. Who would? Would you? None of us would. What a tapas for him to hear Babaji say, no, you can't stay with me. He was just in his 30s and he lived many decades longer. You can't stay with me. Your life is to go back. And he had kids and he had his modest responsibility. There was an accountant working in the office, all of these things. Imagine what that was like for him. Of course, he was a master, so he had the advantage of being a free soul. But they play out their lives for our benefit, as we know. And so for him, on a human level, and that's real, because these saints have so much power through their balanced and integrated life that they can play their human role perfectly and their divine role perfectly. The masters can come out of a state of ecstasy, as Sri Yukteswar gave to Yogananda when he was there at the hermitage. He handed him a broom, lest he get overdrunk. Lest he get overdrunk with his ecstasy, because he had much work to do. He was handed a broom, and I think to myself, every day, until we get to go to the Himalayas and spend time there with the great ones, we're handed a broom. Day after day after day. The broom has many different, forms, but it's a broom, nevertheless. And for us, are we being punished? Of course not. We're being handed a golden broom, which is to say a golden opportunity to hold on to the peace and the joy that we have gained through meditation. And then, bit by bit, how can we stumbled, of course, but how can we do what we need to do in this world graciously? As Yogananda said, meet each test pleasantly. My gosh, that's an amazing thing when we reflect on the test that we have met unpleasantly. And we wish that they would depart. Meet each test pleasantly? Who has that power? But as we go deeper in meditation, as we go deeper into our selfless service, as it really dawns on us that the gurus are the ones that are changing us, as it really dawns on us that we are truly here to be instruments of selfless service, we begin in our hearts to know, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that God's perfect, makes no mistakes, none, absolutely none, when it comes to each and every one of us. No mistakes. So a negative thought comes, a positive experience comes, this hodgepodge of these many things, drawn of course by our karma, individual karma, mass karma. Who's to know these things at this point in our evolution? We'll know all of these things when we're free. And we've got to deal with them. Day after day after day after day after day. And yet, it occurs to us at one point that it's not that difficult if we just say into it. And so we all have our own strengths. Each and every one of us. Is that often we used to have fun when we were in the monastery. We had a bunch of monks, and we'd say, wow, if we could just pull all of the qualities from each of the monks and create an implosion, we'd have one saint. We wouldn't have 36 saints, as we were 36 strong, but at least we'd have one, and then hopefully the saint throws down a rope and the rest of us climb up, and so on. So there it is. All of us have these strengths, and these are not strengths that have just come over this lifetime. These are strengths that we've been working on for a long, long time. And so we need to capitalize on them. And in that way, then we see these are gifts that have been given to us by God, our inner gifts, our outer gifts. And so with that, then we feel like we really have the possibility of finding God in this lifetime. The Maya wants to tell us, and it does a great job, that, let's kind of lower the bar. I know that the Mahashaya said, every problem can be solved through Kriya, and on it goes, all these various things to give us the hope and encouragement, and it's real. But the Maya says, something, I think really what we want to aim for is, let's just be good. Didn't Sri Yukteswar said, learn to behave? I think that's probably good enough. And let's just do that. And so more smiles, a few more smiles and a few more good thoughts. That would be good too. And, maybe in 10 incarnations, we'll gather enough steam that then we can find God. That has to be rejected with firm will, absolute firm will. Because when we think in terms of what we've been given, which is so much, when it's not just one guru, it's a whole line of gurus. And as Yogananda said, this is unique in history. A whole line of gurus. And then we have Swami. And the list goes on and on and on and on. Yes, we do have a shot to find God in this life. But it's not just about finding God for ourselves. I was thinking not long back about breathing. And, we all breathe, and so, it's a good thing to breathe consciously and even super consciously as we can. And I was thinking, what a good thing to think in terms of when we inhale, we draw in God's grace. And when we exhale, we give that grace to all. I thought, I think now I don't mind. We all want to strive for the breathless state. But until that super conscious state comes, then we might as well use this experience to begin to act as instruments for the divine, even in this simple ways. We inhale, we draw in God's grace, we exhale, we bless others. More and more, we need to embrace, as it says in the Bible, ye too are gods. Ye too are gods. He didn't say some of you are gods, a few of you are gods. He said you too are gods, completely across the board. Ye too are gods. And we love the saints because they reflect that back to us. They see us as gods. Well, the only adjustment we need to make right now is this, and it takes humility, that right now we are sleeping gods. But we're still gods, and don't forget that. We're gods, but we're sleeping gods. Well, that's all right. And when we're asleep, we know that at one point we wake up. And so it will be. That right now in this dream, however long this dream lasts, there will be a point where we will wake up, live in that state. Live in that state, because that's the true state. The sleeping state is the false state. The waking state is the true state. That's the state of reality. And so, in that way, through self-acceptance, through accepting of others, by seeing each other as gods, all of these things, we begin to appreciate that the gift that we have been given in this life to pierce the veil, to go inside, is so rare that it is vital that we cherish it. And as we cherish it, then we need to do a little something. As Sri Yukteswar said, as long as you're here on this earth, breathing the air and all, you need to be rendering grateful service. And so in that way, we do what we can on a daily basis to wake ourselves up through waking up others. I was just reading in the autobiography of a yogi that thought is a power. This is from Sri Yukteswar, just like electricity, like gravity. And you know how we read, the autobiography of a yogi and other great scriptures and so on, and then we think, oh, gee, this must be a new edition. I don't remember reading that thought is likened to electricity. It really struck me, in a way, like a lightning bolt. I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to work all the more on my thoughts, because thought is a power. And as Yogananda said, if we think we're free, we will be free. The ego's not very happy with that thought, so it gives us a long laundry list of all the reasons that we're not free. And if we're fools at that moment, then we give in. But we have to resist that. And so we are free now. We are God's now. We need to accept what is a reality and what is a dream. And as we're able to do that, we find more and more joy coming into our lives, a joy we can share, more and more of these qualities that the saints enjoy and are enjoying right now. I remember there was a time when, in the early years at Ananda, I still, of course, love to read all these wonderful books, but I thought, I'm sick of reading about what other people are experiencing. I want to experience it myself. And I remember at that time upping my meditation. That was my reaction. So it was a good thing. And I didn't abandon reading books. But I thought, it's time now to experience. It's time now for depth. That's the last frontier. It's time now to expand my meditations. And so for us, what can we do? As I often like to say, as the year begins to roar by, it's October, it's almost finished. 2017. What can we give to 2017? What can we give to 2017? It's there, it's fertile ground. And what does 2017 want? It wants us to be new and improved. It wants the previous year to have been a year of deepening sincerity, of deepening devotion. And so, however the year's gone, hopefully it's gone fairly well, we do have the last quarter where we can gallop to the finish line in order to give the gift to the new year. The gift of our love, the gift of hope, the gift of joyous aspiration. And so we have our 3 months left now. Let's see what we can do with it in growing our sadhana and expanding our seva, in living a more balanced and integrated life. And primarily to remember, look how I've changed Walter. Look how God and Guru has changed us. Don't think for a moment that we are able to do what we're able to do in going after God unaided. No way. No way. When we wake up from this dream and we see how the angels in the astral world and the great Guru, God Himself, has helped us, it will be a humbling experience. But we know in a way that that's the case. More and more to a greater and greater degree. And we're humbled by it. And we're thankful for that. So, God bless you all as we finish up 2016 and gallop into the new year with a joyous expectation of growing more deeply in love for God.